It's week 3 of the National Football League, and it's presented by EA Sports. It's the Dolphins and the Seahawks, and it comes your way next on Madden Football.
Hello and welcome back to Retro Era 3. This is the matchup between two teams from the same year. So I think that's the first time we've had that going on. It's the 1984 Miami Dolphins at the 1984 Seattle Seahawks. So again, the Retro Era is the best teams from the retro era that I call Retro Era 3, which is 1984 through 1996. And this game just happens to be two teams from that first year, 1984. Seattle Seahawks hosting the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins were having a little bit of computer problems, so we might do things in a little bit different order. So we'll just kind of talk about the teams, but first let's meet Dan Marino. Dan Marino, this is on this season, 38 to 65, 568 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. But just a little bit about the teams, what they're known for. My computer's having problems, so I don't have Pro Reference Football up or anything. But, of course, the 84 Dolphins were the Dan Marino sensational season. In his second season, threw for over 5,000 yards, which just blew away the records. Also had 48 touchdown passes. Again, just blew everything away. And kind of, he is in large part the reason why Retro Era 3 starts in 84. Retro Era 2, I have only going from 75 to 83. If it wasn't this 84 Seattle Seahawks team could still fit into that Retro Era 2, and the 84 Cardinals team could also fit into Retro Era 2, and even the 84 49ers team was still Retro Era 2 but this Miami Dolphins team broke the mold, so really put passing first. So let's take a look at Dave Craig here, leader of the Seattle Seahawks, 27 to 56, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That is through 2 games. Miami comes in at 1-1. You see at the bottom of the screen there, Seattle is 0-2. But the Seattle Seahawks, okay, so Dan Marino, of course, kind of breaking all the records with 2 great receivers in Mark Clayton and Mark Duper. The Seattle Seahawks team, much different, came in with high hopes after a pretty good year in 83. Their top running back, Kurt Warner, gets hurt in the first game of the season. They have to go the rest of the season without him, so they have a plethora of running backs that carry the ball throughout the year in 84, just running back by committee. Dave Craig put a lot of responsibility at his shoulders, and he performed. But this team went 12-4, mostly due to its defense and partially special teams, but a ridiculous amount of turnovers forced. The great Kenny Easley at safety leading the charge, but plenty of defensive talent forcing a lot of turnovers. So far in this Retro Era, they're playing other great teams of the entire era, and they have not been able to force the turnovers yet and lost both games. And in this one, same thing. I think if the Dolphins do not turn it over, they're definitely going to win this game, and the Seahawks will find themselves at 0-3. So we'll see. Can the Seahawks do what they do best and force turnovers and win this game, or will the Dolphins go to 2-1 and the Seahawks fall to 0-3? Now, in 1984, the Seattle Seahawks were an AFC West team, not NFC West. But here, having to use Madden rules, they are in the NFC. So you might have saw at the very beginning of the broadcast, it said Clash of Conferences. because Madden thinks it's an NFC team versus AFC team, which it is for the season because we're playing in Madden. No way to change divisions or anything outside of, maybe PC mods. I don't even know if there's a mod that does that or not, but certainly not on console here. Dan Marino strikes that ball in between a couple Seahawks and into Mark Duper. Nice throw right there. And the Seahawks are the first team to cross the 50-yard line. Marino from the shotgun. Now, Marino, so another thing about the Dolphins, especially if you didn't get to see them live, this 84 team was before I was alive, but a very young child and not yet watching football. Marino just misses Clayton in the end zone. So I'm a Bears fan that heard, the rumblings. I mean, I grew up, near Chicago was the closest team. On top of that, right when I started, I was already watching baseball, but I just didn't get into football yet. And then in '85, of course, the Bears were amazing. But I didn't have any way to watch them as far as no television or anything. There's Mark Duper for the touchdown. So Marino misses Clayton earlier, but he comes back and hits Mark Duper for the touchdown. So the Dolphins take the early lead 7-0. What I was going to say is the 85 Bears, of course, were getting popularity, maybe hear about this sport called football. No TV or anything like that. But everyone was talking about it. At school, I believe I was in 2nd grade. Is that right? 2nd grade, I think so. Maybe 3rd. Either 2nd or 3rd. Can't even remember. But anyways, so I did listen to the... oh, no, I remember. Okay, so I did see the one game I saw. This is ridiculous. But the game that I got to see or hear and see a little bit was I was at my uncle's house or something, and I was just too busy playing with my cousins. But all the adults, of course, were watching the game, the 1985 game, the Bears against the Dolphins. And at the time, I was not a Bears fan yet, or didn't really even care about football yet. So I secretly was just hearing them rant and rave during that game. I would take a look, and they just couldn't believe that the Bears were getting beat by Dan Marino. And that was the 85 team, of course. This is the 84 Dolphin team. But anyways, that was like the first game that I saw parts of live. And then in '86, of course, I really started watching football. But anyways, my computer is finally starting back up, so we can get into some of the stats of the teams here. Seahawks get another first down. So maybe they can make a game of this. There's play action pass. That was odd. I don't know if that was supposed to be a shovel pass or what, but it was a forward pass. It just didn't look right. Something interesting there. There's a handoff. And a fumble. Okay, so I said earlier the Seahawks, the 84 Seahawks, were known for forcing turnovers. That's how they basically got into this Retro 3. Oh, that might not be a fumble, though. The booth's going to review this because I don't think that's a fumble. I think he hit the ground first. But again, what I was saying is the Seahawks, they're basically here from their defense. Craig had a good year, but the defense led the team by forcing a bunch of turnovers, and the Dolphins are a high-powered offense. The Seahawks need to win the turnover battle to have any chance, really, of winning this game. So they cannot lose the turnover battle. So it's a good thing that that was overturned. Dixon unable to pick up the first down, though. So they will have to punt. Okay, the computer is slowly working. I'm going to hopefully get there. There's another completion to Duper. Duper doing most of the work here. Clayton hasn't really shown himself yet. There's a handoff and a huge gain across midfield and all the way to the 43-yard line. So a big run by Nathan. All right, so the first thing that you probably want to know is, since both these teams are from 1984, it's the 1984 Miami Dolphins and the 1984 Seattle Seahawks, did they play that year? And the answer, well, one answer is in the regular season they did not. However, as I explained earlier, back in '84, the Seattle Seahawks were an AFC West team, not NFC. So they did play in the playoffs. The opening playoff game for the Dolphins was hosting the Seattle Seahawks in the divisional round. And the Dolphins won fairly easily, 31-10. So we'll see if this plays out the same way. But 31-10 was the margin of victory in that game. There's a completion to Clayton, breaks a tackle, and down inside the 20. So the Dolphins, a little bit of stats since my computer's finally up. 14-2 is what they did in the regular season in 1984. Won playoff games against hosting the Seattle Seahawks 31-10. And they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 45-28. So their two AFC playoff games, they scored 76 points to make it to the Super Bowl. But then in the Super Bowl, only got 16 points against the San Francisco 49ers, who thoroughly beat them. Had the answers to Marino, unlike that play where the Seahawks lost Duper somehow. I don't know how you keep no track of Mark Duper, but there he is for an easy touchdown. That's his second touchdown catch. And look at what is Seattle's defense doing on this one. Yikes. All alone. And the Dolphins lead 13-0. It's about to be 14-0. So, yeah, it's looking similar to that 31-10 win they had against the Seahawks in real life, 84. But anyways, the Dolphins finished the Dolphins. They were 14-2. Number one offense. They scored over 32 points per game. They were the seventh best defense. And now the Seahawks have the ball, so we will take a look at some of their stats. The Seahawks in 84, led by that man Dave Craig, went 12-4, so a very solid team in their own right. 12-4, and then made the playoffs as a wild card. Beat the Los Angeles Raiders in the wild card game 13-7, and then of course went to Miami and got beat down pretty hard, like we talked about. So the Seattle Seahawks, I mentioned earlier that they were a running back by committee. Of course, their best runner, Kurt Warner. It's a nice carry for a first down. But their best running back, Kurt Warner, carried the ball 10 times in the first game, 10 carries for 40 yards, and then that was it. That 10th carry was the last of the season as he suffered a brutal injury. And then it was running back by committee. So let's kind of run through it real quick. So Kurt Warner had 10 carries on the year, which was ninth on the team because, of course, he was hurt. So they have 8 other running backs that will carry the ball more than Kurt Warner. And that is Cullen Bryant had 20. Dave Craig scrambled 46 times. Dixon, the man who seems to be getting the bulk of the carries today, had 31 carries. This man right here, Hughes, you've seen him a couple times. He actually led the Seahawks with 94 attempts. So the Seahawks do not have a running back on this roster that had over 100 attempts in 1984. That goes anywhere from David Hughes at 94 down to... Oh, there's a fumble, and this time that's not going to be overturned. So the Seahawks, they cannot compete with the Dolphins straight up. They have to win the turnover battle. Not only are they not winning the turnover battle, they're now losing the turnover battle, and this could get ugly quick. There's Marino to Nathan. Marino up to 129 yards already with 2 touchdowns. So Marino and the Dolphins won their opening round game here in Retro Area 3, but got in a game that was hopeful to be a high-scoring divisional game against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills defense held Marino to just 7 points, so they got beat down. I think it was something like 31-7 against Buffalo, but now their offense looks like it's back to clicking. There's a handoff to Nathan, and he gets 4 yards. So the Miami Dolphins, we keep talking about Dan Marino. So what they do, yeah, they were the number 1 offense. They made it to the Super Bowl. But what else do you got for me? There's a completion. So Dan Marino, of course, led the league in so many things. So most completions, 362. Most attempts, 564. Yes, that's good for over 64% completion percentage in 1984 is remarkable. And even more so in 84 when you realize that he did that while still averaging over or right at 9 yards per attempt. So they were not just dink and dunk, Chad Pennington type stuff. 64%, over 5,000 yards, first time in history. 48 touchdowns, which is just insane for that time. 17 interceptions, quarterback rating 108.3. And here's something for you. Oh, Nathan gets a nice block there. Dan Marino has an exceptionally quick release, and in 84 he also had a great offensive line. So put those two things together, and he has 48 touchdowns and only 13 times sacked. There's Mark Duper again for his 3rd touchdown catch. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but this game is not going to be close. So any comments that we could possibly talk about something else may be needed, but 21-0. Marino and Duper just lighting it up. So I guess we'll just talk more about the history of the season. So what I was going to say is, can you imagine that Dan Marino's, the amount of times he was sacked plus the amount of times he was intercepted is only 2/3 of how many touchdowns he threw. So 48 touchdowns thrown, times sacked plus times interception is only 30. 48 touchdowns to 30 negative plays. It's just insane. It's insane. Even now in today's football, even Patrick Mahomes and things, who may only throw, like 9 interceptions in the year, still gets sacked more than 20 times, so there's still over 30 negative plays total. Just remarkable season in 84. So the Seahawks, let's talk about them a little bit before you're like, well, they just suck so bad. I don't want to hear anything about them. They were, again, 12-4, quite a good team in 84. They were 5th in offense and 5th in defense. So, again, 2 spots higher than this Dolphin team, and they played in the same year, so they were a better defense than the Dolphins team. And 5th in offense. So, talked about their running back. We'll talk about Dave Craig real quick. Craig, a good season as well, 57.5%. Threw over 3,600 yards, 32 touchdowns, 24 interceptions. So 16 less touchdowns than Marino, but 7 more interceptions. And just to give you an idea of that 13 sacks I was talking about for Marino, Dave Craig was sacked 40 times. So Dave Craig's 32 touchdowns versus his quote-unquote negative plays, which is times being sacked and times being intercepted, that adds up to 64. 40 times he was sacked, 24 times he was picked off. So it's 1 touchdown for every 2 negative plays. Remember, Marino was basically 1.5 touchdowns for every negative play. So, again, you cannot compete. You're not going to outthrow the Dolphins and the Seahawks running back by committee. That's not scaring anyone. They have got to force turnovers. Here is a 2nd and 2 for the Dolphins. Marino's going to throw because why not? He completes it to Clayton. First down. Now the Seahawks on defense, they have in the middle. Well, actually, I might as well go over the roster real quick. So the Seattle Seahawks on the ends, they have Jacob Green and Jeff Bryant, who combined for 27.5 sacks and fairly well split. 13 for Green, 14.5 for Bryant. And then in the middle of those two is big Joe Nash, the all-pro defensive tackle. Nathan carries and gets another first down. Nathan actually having a great day on the ground, too. This Miami offense is just destroying Seattle. The linebackers for the Seahawks, Bruce Schultz, Shelton Robinson, Keith Butler, and Greg Gaines. Kind of just average linebackers there, but one thing is that Shelton Robinson was there to recover 4 fumbles throughout the year. In the secondary, quite good secondary. The corners, Keith Simpson and Pro Bowler Dave Brown, they forced 12 interceptions. And then the safeties, John Harris and the all-pro, all-world, Kenny Easley, forced 16 interceptions. So that's 28 turnovers just by the starting 4 secondary men. So if you were listening, that's 1 Pro Bowler and 2 all-pros. So 3 Pro Bowlers, 2 of them all-pros. But then, not counting Pro Bowlers, they also had a couple of guys that each had 13 or more sacks. So 5, if you will, significant players on defense. On offense, the Pro Bowlers were Dave Craig and Steve Largent. Steve Largent did have 74 catches for over 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns. So a fine season there. But that was again, running back was just by committee. The next most catches were by Darrell Turner, the rookie, who had 35 catches and did find the end zone 10 times. So Darrell Turner, for a rookie, had a very good season. There's Dixon unable to get the first down. I formation now for the Seahawks, trying to at least get the first down to, if nothing else, hold on to the ball till halftime so it's not 28-0. Craig's going to go back to pass fire across the middle. That's complete. And the tackle is broken by Young, the tight end, Charlie Young. But it's going to be holding on the Seahawks. So their first down is negated. Seahawks offense, real quick. Dave Craig is the quarterback. It looks like Zachary Dixon's playing the most running back today. There's Steve Largent coming with a big third down conversion. The fullback, when they're using a fullback, is David Hughes. Oh, my goodness. Wow, did the Seahawks recover that somehow? Dave Craig gets obliterated. Ball comes out. A.J. Dewey with the hit fumble right there, and the Dolphins somehow don't pick this up. Oh, what an effort by the offensive lineman of Seattle. Speaking of that offensive line from left to right, it's Ron Essink, Reggie McKenzie, Blair Bush, Robert Pratt, and Bob Kreider. And then the tight ends are Charlie Young and Mike Tice. You might remember Mike Tice, future coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And then their two receivers, of course, are the Hall of Famer Steve Largent and the rookie Darrell Turner. They will punt with about a minute to go. Go over the Dolphins starters for you. You've already heard a lot of them because they've already put so many points on the board. But, of course, it's the all-world. Look at Marino. 3 incompletions, but also 3 touchdown passes. Marino, of course, the all-pro quarterback. Tony Nathan's the running back. There he is. He's close. Yep, there he is at 80 yards. Woody Bennett is the fullback. And then the receivers are the super Mark brothers, Mark Clayton and Mark Duper. Duper's already got 3 touchdowns. And there's Clayton inside the 20. Clayton does not get in the end zone. But Mark Clayton, also a great receiver. Now, both Clayton and Duper had over 70 catches and over 1,300 yards. So both deserving of the Pro Bowl. The big difference in that 84 season is Duper had only 8 touchdown catches, whereas Clayton had 18. But here in this game, Duper has 3 and Clayton has nothing. The exceptional offensive line, well, it goes, it's average-ish on the left side, John Geisler and Roy Foster. But then it's all world in the middle to the right. Dwight Stevenson, all-pro center. Ed Newman, all-pro right guard. And then Cleveland Green would be the 3rd best offensive lineman of the group at right tackle, although he did not make the Pro Bowl. Oh, my goodness. Did he get his feet in? Mark Clayton shows how to make catches in the corner, perfectly thrown by Dan Marino, of course. Good coverage, but he just gets his feet tapped. Let's see. Boom. Yep. Tap and drag. Mark Clayton showing how to get it done. He gets his touchdown catch. Marino, 4 touchdown passes in one half of football. Well, that's how you do it, I guess. In 84, he had 48 touchdowns. Retro 3, he's going to get, because it's Madden, he's going to get 17 weeks instead of 16, so that'll make it easier. But, of course, the competition, way harder. Yes, these 84 Seahawks and even the 84 Cardinals were teams that were around in his great season, but he's also got to do it against 85 Bears defense. He's got to do it against... in his own division. He's got the 90 Bills, who stopped him to just 7 points already this year. The 85 Jets, which I guess is similar to the 84 Jets. But then also the Patriots are the 1996 Patriots, with Bill Parcells coaching. So certainly harder teams to perform against, but if you get 4 touchdowns and a half, definitely gives you a chance to hit 48 for the year. Let's talk about that Dolphin defense, who's got a shutout right now on top of their offense, just cruising. Their defense as a shutout. And Craig's going to get hit but not drop the ball, so that's nice. Dolphins call timeouts because they're jerks. 5 seconds to go. They can't just let it end. They want a chance to return a punt, even though it's 28-0. All right, so the first half comes to an end. Marino 4 touchdown passes. Seahawks 2, not 2 turnovers because they recovered one of those fumbles, just 1 turnover. But yeah, in real life, it wasn't close. In the playoff game, it was 31-10. In this Madden game, it's even worse. There's the Chargers and Steelers. What a game that was. Steelers won 16-13 on a last-second field goal. So the Chargers from 1994 fall to 0-3. The 95 Steelers are 2-1. This is going to be a good game. Of course, they show you games that haven't been played yet, so that's fun. But that is going to put somebody into first place. And, of course, this game wasn't played either. So you got to see one set of stats, but that's it. Alrighty, let's do half number 2. Go through the Dolphins defense real quick for you. See if you notice anything about some of the front 7 here. First, we'll go with the secondary. The Dolphins kind of do it a little bit backwards here. The corners are Don McNeil and William Judson. They combined for 7 interceptions and 4 fumble recoveries. Then the safeties are Lyle and Glenn Blackwood. So Glenn Blackwood with 6 interceptions, Lyle with 3. But those 4 secondary men, 3 of them started all 16 games. Cornerback Don McNeil only started 10. So there will also be, you'll see, well, I mean, I don't know how many times the Dolphins will be showcased, but you will see Paul Lankford. We've already seen him. He's basically the nickel corner most of the time, but he did start 6 of the games. So when we'll put McNeil lower on the depth charts to represent his injury in 84. But now the front 7. Okay, so they do a 3-4, the Dolphins do. Across the defensive line on the ends is Doug Betters and Kim Bocamper. They combined for 18 sacks, 14 by Betters, although neither of them made the Pro Bowl. In the middle, Bob Baumhauer did make the Pro Bowl. Then the linebackers from left to right, Bob Brudzinski, Pro Bowler A.J. Dewey, Mark Brown, and Charles Bowser. So again, if you're keeping track, the front 7 last names were Betters, Baumhauer, Bocamper, Brudzinski, Brown, Bowser, and Dewey. So A.J. Dewey missed the memo, but every one of the others starting front 7 last name began with B, and yes, they were known as the Killer Bees defense. You may have even noticed that the 2 safeties are Glenn and Lyle Blackwood, so that does mean that 8 of the 11 starters last name started with the letter B, which is just kind of ridiculous. All right, so Marino's been on fire, and that's what they're showing here. Duper once, twice, 3 times, and then Clayton with a great catch in the corner for the 4th touchdown pass. So the Dolphins again in 84, 7th best defense, allowed 18.6 points per game. You're like, well, you know what? You say 7th best defense, but they're shutting out the Seahawks. Did they shut out anyone in 1984? The answer, Marino's looking deep, already up by 4 touchdowns, but there's some nice coverage by the Seahawks. So Simpson does not want to be on the bad end of any more highlights. But the answer to your question of how many shutouts did the Dolphins have in 84, the answer is 0. So a total record of 16-3. Including 1 Super Bowl loss but 0 turnovers. Zero shutouts. So they did against the Patriots, at home against the Patriots, at home against the Colts, at home against the Bills, and on the road in Pittsburgh. They did hold their opponents to 7 points in all of those games. But they did not have a shutout. And in fact, they never played a game in 84 where they did not allow a touchdown on defense. So there's that. They're shutting out the Seahawks here now, though. And that's knocked away. Nice play. The Seahawks defender there. So in that game, the playoff game in 84, when the Dolphins beat the Seahawks 31-10, they had 22 first downs compared to the Seahawks, who had just the 8. They actually turned it over twice, and the Seahawks only turned it over once. So, again, the Seahawks forced a bunch of turnovers in 84, but when it got to the divisional round, they could only force 1. No, they forced 2 against the Dolphins, which is still good, but they lost by 21 points. So that was being +1 in the turnover margin, -21 in the points margin. Here in this game, they're -1 in the turnover margin, and so there you go, -28 in the scoreboard. Dave Craig on 2nd and 10 will throw out of the, not out of the backfield, but to the tight end, and Charlie Young hit immediately. Actually lost the yard. Third down conversions were even, 3-3. Touchdowns are 4-0 though. Dave Craig, back pass. His line gave him some nice time, but he throws it into double coverage. And Largent unable to make a spectacular catch. So the Seahawks will punt once again. This is a rough game. I decided to showcase this one. Again, trying to make sure every team gets showcased. That's part of the strategy with each of the games I pick. But I figured let's go ahead and show a game of 2 teams that actually played each other. So when you're talking about an entire era, 13 season, something that spans 13 seasons. There's lots of teams from different years, but not so many teams from the same year. So here was a chance to see 84 Seahawks and 84 Dolphins. Figured we'd showcase that, but the Seahawks are not making this an interesting game to watch, unfortunately. Of course, if you saw, hey, the 84 Dolphins are going to be showcased, kind of like what we had in that 91 Lions game, they got showcased, and you're like, well, I want to see Barry Sanders, and you did, as he definitely ran the ball. Then we had the 91 Falcons, and they got not blown out as much as this, but they did get blown out. But you got to see Deion Sanders do his thing, returning a punt for a touchdown. So here, I guess, Kenny Easley's a monster, and it would be nice to see him force a turnover or 2. But the thing probably most people want to see in this matchup is Dan Marino and his great passing ability, and you have seen that in the first half. Marino just got Green. Look at that. Marino throws an interception. The Seahawks get their turnover, but it was a free play because Marino got Green to jump. Unbelievable. So Marino gets Jacob Green to jump, gets a free play, throws an interception, almost just to troll the Seahawks. Like, yeah, I know what you do is you force turnovers. Here you go. Oh, wait, you were offsides. And now probably, I thought he was going to hit him. I thought he was going to hit a touchdown pass on that just to really rub it in. Total yards 345 to 100, so that's embarrassing for the Seahawks. And here's Marino with play action. Throws it. Oh, that was almost picked off without an offsides. That's Shelton Robinson. He forced some turnovers in 84. Mostly fumble recoveries, though. Marino throws that away. Again, doesn't want to take a sack. Took only 13 sacks in all of 84. And here's something interesting. Did you see this? I don't know why they didn't play. That's because of Madden coaching. But the Dolphins punted the ball. It actually ends up being an amazing punt. They're inside the 25-yard line, and the Dolphins punted the ball. Roby makes a great punt, though, and gets out of the 2-yard line, so at least it was sort of worth it. If it would have been a touchback, they would have gained like 5 yards or 4 yards total by punting the ball. But part of the reason that the Dolphins decided to punt is we've been talking up the Dolphins, how good they were, right? Blew people out. The defense was okay. Ranked 7th. Never had shutouts or anything, but they were good for what the team needed, which is just keep the opponents under 20 most of the time, and Marino will beat them. But the one glaring hole, if you want to pick something against each of these teams, is the kicker, Uwe von Schamann. In 1984, he was 9 of 19, so he missed more field goals than he made, 47.4%. On top of all that, his longest field goal made was 37 yards. So he was, in fact, 0 for 8. 0 for 8 on anything attempted over 37 yards. So 0% of the time he made a field goal over 38 yards. On field goals of 37 or less, then he was 9 of 11. So he's not completely inaccurate. It's just he can't kick the ball very far, which means if they're not in the red zone, if you have the ball at the 20, it's a 37-yard field goal because the 7-yard snap back, and then the 10 yards for the field goal post. So if the Dolphins are kicking a field goal inside the red zone or right on the 20, then von Schamann is set 9 of 11. If they're outside of the 20, like they were on that last drive, and they had the ball at the 24, he has a 0% chance of making it, so that's why they punted. Now, if I was coaching, I would just play, because Marino has a great chance of picking up the first down, and if not, you're only giving up the ball at the 24, but they decided to punt. There's Roby with another great punt. This one traveled much farther, but again went out inside the 10. So the Seahawks at least getting some stops here in the second half to stop it from just getting ridiculous, but they still can't get their offense working. $112 total yards only. Oh, there's no flag. I thought they got a offsides play, but they did not, so here's 3rd and 5, Dave Craig. Last play of the third quarter. If he snaps it, he will not. Okay, so the Seahawks are going to have to score 28 points in the fourth quarter if they are going to make the comeback. Now we're in week 3. And just to give you some league updates, I guess, since this game is not the closest. We have in the NFC, we're down to just one undefeated team. So the Cowboys, Eagles, and Panthers all lost this week. The only team to win and remain undefeated in the NFC side of things is the 1986 New York Giants. So the Giants at 3-0 have the best record in the NFC here in the early going. It was a nice play by the Seahawks there. It looked like the Dolphins, Judson went for the interception, and it ended up being a big play for the Seahawks. There's Craig. He's got some time. He's got to go underneath. But the running back tried to take off running before he caught the ball, and so it ends up being a drop. Craig back to pass again. Almost exclusive passing. So again, in the regular season, real life, 84, Craig had to do a lot more passing than just the year before because of the injury to their phenomenal running back. They didn't really have much of a running game. It was all Craig. It's got to be all Craig here today because they're down by 28. He really needs to come through on this fourth down to keep any excitement in the game at all, and he's going to get rid of it before he gets hit and completes it. So he comes through on fourth down. That's the rookie receiver, Darrell Turner, downfield making the catch. I'm not going to say the game's not over yet, but the Dolphins might lose their shutout. Big throw by Craig in the face of a bunch of defenders coming at him. And now Craig will dance around and throw it near the end zone. That might be the second drop on this drive. 2nd and 10 now. They can get a first down without getting in the end zone if they get to the 1 yard line. Dewey's coming. He puts a hit on Craig. He got rid of the ball before getting sacked, but that does not make the pain any less. 3rd and 10. They've already picked up a fourth down conversion on this drive, so I think they'll go for it on fourth. But Craig on third would like to pick it up. End zone, touchdown. There is a flag, though. Earlier, Marino threw an interception and it was negated because of a flag. Now the Seahawks get a touchdown on offense, and here you go. Negated from a holding penalty. So just not the Seahawks game at all. I do still like these. Oh, wow. Maybe the Dolphins will still get the shutout. Craig lofts it up into the end zone. And Lyle Blackwood, one of the safeties and one of the many players on the defense whose name starts with a B, gets the interception, brings it out to the 12-yard line, and the Dolphins will take over. Let's see if they just start running the ball now, as Marino has done enough. He did enough in the first half. They haven't really done anything in the second half, but I just think they're not trying to pour it on. Total yards are getting a little bit closer, but again, the Dolphins did most of that in the first half. And now they're just kind of trying to take as much time off the clock as possible. That's Johnson with the carry. Nathan had a good start to the game, went up to like 80 yards now. They're trying to get some of their other running backs involved. There's Nathan again. He hits 100 yards. Okay, so Nathan was able to hit the 100-yard mark. So Marino throws 4 touchdown passes. And then Nathan adds a 100-yard rushing game. And there's a well-blocked play. Nathan gets all the way up to the 41. So Nathan having one of his best games. Since Nathan is ripping some yards here. Talk so much about Marino in the passing game. The Dolphins also ran. So this is another thing that people may not realize is even though Marino threw for over 5,000 yards, the Dolphins as a team ran for over 1,900 yards in a 16-game season. So it's not like, you know, some of the teams of today, maybe like that 2007 Patriots team or some of the Peyton Manning teams that even the Saints teams that have a 5,000-yard passer but don't really run the ball too much. 1,900 yards on the ground as well. So quite good when you're throwing that much to still get that much yards on the ground. Tony Nathan was the starting running back most of the time. He started 12 of the games. Only had 558 yards, though. So Woody Bennett, who we've not really seen much today, led the team with 606. But it's kind of extraordinary that they had 1,900 yards and their leading rusher only had 606. But they did have Joe Carter pop in for 495 yards as well. Now, the Seahawks, we told you when Kurt Warner went down, a running back by committee, but no one on the Seahawks carries the ball 100 times in 84. The Dolphins, even though Marino is throwing the ball all over the place, the Miami Dolphins actually have 3 different players that carry the ball 100 times or more. So that's just some of the stuff that you don't think about with the 84 Dolphins. It's just kind of Marino. You think they just drop back and pass every play. Not true at all. 3 different guys carry the ball 100 times for that team. Seahawks go for it on 4th down. They fail to get it. It's looking more and more like this team that's all about offense might get a shutout from their defense. 28-0. Handoff. Again, they're trying to get inside the 20-yard line to give their field goal kicker a shot. This is the 21, so I wonder if they'd try it. This would be a 38-yarder, which, again, would be longer than any he made in 37. But not by much. Oh, but Nathan loses a few yards, and I don't know if they can attempt this one. This will be a 42-yarder. We're indoors here in the Kingdom, but no, they're not going to try it. Roby's going to come out to punt, even though they have the ball at the 25-yard line. Again, why not just let Marino take a shot? He can get in the end zone from there. But to Roby's credit, at least, he knows that if he's punting, he's got to just punt it straight out of bounds. And he does. 3rd time he's gotten the ball out inside the 10. So the Seahawks, on top of everything else, have had terrible starting field position. All right, the story now is not who's going to win the game, obviously. It's will the Dolphins get the shutout? Or can Dave Craig put one good drive together? He did have one good drive, but then threw an interception in the end zone. The play after throwing a touchdown, though. So he threw a touchdown pass, called back for holding. Next play, he threw it in the end zone, and it was picked off. And that was the one chance that the Seahawks had to score in this game. Craig throws it over the middle, and that's picked off. Is that Lyle again? Lyle Blackwood with his 2nd interception of the game. One in the end zone and one right there to end it. So again, I started off by saying Seahawks cannot compete with this Dolphins team straight up. They need to do what they do best, which is force turnovers and win the turnover battle. Unfortunately for them, they are losing the turnover battle 3-0, and that is giving the Dolphins an easy win. Now again, when they did play in 84 in a playoff game, the Dolphins won 31-10, so we shouldn't be too surprised that they're winning the game fairly easily. But it's just with the Seahawks doing all the turnovers, it's 28-0. Now here we go again at the 26-yard line, and Roby's going to punt again. Oh, but he misses that one. That one actually goes into the end zone, so that's a touchback, meaning that that was only a 6-yard net on that punt. It doesn't get any less funny. That's 3 different times the Dolphins have had the ball inside the 30, but couldn't get it inside the 20, and their field goal kicker is so limited that they've decided to punt. So with an average field goal kicker of this era, or a bad field goal kicker today, they would probably have at least 34, if not 37 points. But it's still 28-0, so it's not like it's mattered. But I wonder if that will, if they make the playoffs in this retro era 3, if they lose because they can't kick field goals. Or if the Madden coaching will be smart enough to just let Marino keep throwing for it, because I think on these 3 times that they were inside the 20, he probably turned at least one of those into touchdowns if you just let him go for it on 4th down. Seahawks do get one more chance to try to break this shutout. Now the question becomes, if they can get there, will they do whatever it takes just to get a field goal and break the shutout, or will they say we're only breaking the shutout if we can get the ball in the end zone? Craig fires downfield, completes, and right there they are possibly in nowhere near Von Schaman's field goal range for the Dolphins, but for the Seahawks, they are very close to field goal range now. Craig almost throws that into the Dolphins' hands, though. So here we go. I'm not sure if this notification thing is accurate here. YouTube keeps flipping between one viewer and 4. So either 3 people are constantly turning on, turning off, turning on again, or YouTube is just going schizophrenic. Probably the latter. But for anyone who has watched this game or is still watching the game, hopefully you're finding some things interesting. I don't know. Maybe the fact that the Dolphins had 3 different 100 yards rushers, you're like, oh, hey, I learned something. I don't know. But yeah, you obviously haven't stuck around because of a close competitive game, that's for sure. 4th down, Craig throws it underneath. He's going to expect him to get the first down, and he could not. He got close, but did not get the first down, which means the Dolphins are going to complete the shutout. So all 84 Dolphins in this one. The Seahawks are going to go to 0-3. And the Miami Dolphins are going to go to 2-1. Nathan picking up some big yards. This is his best game of the season. So again, if you're interested in these rosters, they are under classic teams 84-96. There is also a classic teams 1960 to 1974, which is the first era, retro era number 1. But I would not download that yet if I was you, because I am rating them correctly. That was sort of a rush project, and I just wanted to get it over with, honestly, and to get to this one since this is more of my favorite era, and so I did not completely rate that properly. So that is being re-rated. It will be released soonish, probably before the end of May. But anyways, thank you for watching. We'll go through some stats here. It was all Dolphins, of course. But the Dolphins go to 2-1. Seahawks are 0-3. There you see some of the stats. Just all Dolphins led that, Dolphins led that, Dolphins led that, and Dolphins won the turnover battle. So absolutely ridiculous blowout here. Craig's rating was 27.0. Marino was 136.8. Yikes. Okay. All right. Well, anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully you have a good, morning now. And hopefully you are liking Retro Era 3 so far, or you download the rosters and you like those. We'll be back again, hopefully in the next couple days, possibly with another Week 3 matchup, unless we get to Week 4 by then. But again, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the commentary, since the game wasn't much to watch, but it is what it is. Sometimes you get blowouts. Thanks again. Have a good night. Day. Bye.